This is Buffalo State Data Talk, the podcast where we introduce you to how data is used and explore careers that involve data. Hello, and welcome to the Buffalo State Data Talk Summer 2021 mini-series all about internships. I'm your host, Heather Campbell, and our summer episodes will explore the process of finding and making the most of your internship. We'll be focusing on the field of data science and analytics, but many of these tips will be applicable to numerous fields, and also if you're searching for a job. From networking to acing that interview, our experienced panel of guests will provide excellent tips and tricks to land you your next internship. In today's episode, we'll start with the internship basics. What is an internship, and why might you want to have one? How to find an internship. Let me introduce you to our speakers. Today, we'll be talking to Claire Petrie, a talent acquisition and HR expert from Buffalo. Thanks for joining us today, Claire.
Thanks for having me, Heather.
Dr. Ramona Santamaria, the internship coordinator for the Computer Information Systems Department at Buffalo State College. Thanks for joining us today, Ramona.
Thanks for having me, Heather. I love talking about CS and data.
Ijaz Eberhardt, a journalist and a Buffalo State College data science and analytics alumni. Thanks for joining us today, Ijaz.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll be welcoming back to the show today Bill Bauer, the Education and Diversity Director at the BioXFL NSF Science and Technology Center at Hopman Woodworth Institute. Thanks for joining us today, Bill.
Thanks for having me.
Denise Harris, the Director of the Career Development Center at Buffalo State College. Thanks for joining us today, Denise.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
So before we go in too far, could you explain to me what exactly is the difference between an internship and a job? And why would somebody maybe want to do one over the other?
So internships are typically for a set amount of time and considered to be a temporary employment, where this is not usually the case with a job. Some internships may also not pay the students. I would recommend finding one that does pay you. Your time has value and you should get compensated for that. But sometimes that's not always an option. So I guess those are the two biggest differences.
So I think that's a great question because a lot of people don't know the difference. So there's actually three areas. There's internships, apprenticeships, and then there is jobs, careers. So what we're looking for within a internship versus an apprenticeship. An apprenticeship is usually something that's more hands-on, and it might be in more of a hands-on field like plumbing, electrician, something like that, where you would be working under a master. Whereas in an internship, what you're trying to do is find more focus within your academic area, and you're trying to get new skills that'll move you on to a career path and a job.
Have you yourself ever completed an internship?
Yeah, so I started my career with two internships in the same company that I'm in now, Hopman Woodward Medical Research Institute. And I liked it enough that I stayed on and got my PhD through that program at University of Buffalo. And I'm still there now, many years later. I won't say how many.
So what did you take away from your experience? What from your internship experience made you decide that you wanted to continue working at HWI?
Right. So I think for me, it was really my first experience in the sciences. And it taught me that I really did enjoy doing this. I like being the first person to ever see the thing that we're studying and first person to understand it, even with systems that may have been around for millions of years. And so I thought that part was really cool, and I liked being a part of that. And so this is really how the internships should work, right? This should be your first experience in the field and your chance to figure out if you like it or not.
So I'm wondering, have you yourself ever completed an internship?
Yes, I completed several. In fact, going back to my days at SUNY Fredonia, I did 3 internships. I did one with the alumni office where I worked with them and I learned all about the importance of connecting with alumni. And then I also did an internship. I did 2 internships for a full year back to back with our leadership development program. Those 3 internships definitely helped me. It helped me get into grad school and they helped me really solidify my career goals.
So you mentioned that you completed a couple of different internships. Some of them you enjoyed, some you didn't enjoy. So what kind of things did you take away from these experiences that were really useful?
Well, the days were really long. I realized when I was an undergrad, like, wow, people work a lot. It really, I remember I was an intern in a human resources department at Children's Hospital in downtown Buffalo. And it was a beautiful sunny day. And I was stuck in a basement working. Now, they had windows, and the windows were all up top, all up top above us, but we were still in a basement, or let's just say like a subfloor. And it was a great day, and me and one of the other girls walked down to the cafeteria because it was in a different building. And I just thought, and it was hot and it was wonderful. And I thought, and I looked at her and I said, when do people go to the beach? And she says, well, on the weekend, like everyone else. And I was like, working. Oh my God, working. It was just a shock to me. But again, it's an exposure to a career path, and it kind of lets you know, hey, I need to maybe have more, find a job that gives me a lot of flexibility, or I've got to find a job, or maybe I like a job that's really structured, right? So it just depends on who you are. But I realized I needed a job with a lot of flexibility.
So you would say that completing an internship was a beneficial part of your master's degree experience?
I feel like every master's program should have a built-in internship requirement, because it's so much more than, you can learn something out of a book, you can learn something from a lecture, and I had wonderful lecturers and assignments as a DSA student. But to actually get that hands-on experience before you get into the field, to know what you're going to be doing, to get a taste of putting your skills to use is so exciting. I feel like having that internship experience really enriched my experience in the DSA program, because it allowed me to really get hands-on with what I was learning.
Do you think that you are now, after having completed the internship, you were much better prepared to start your career than before the internship?
Absolutely, I was. I was able to, after graduating, say, hey, to prospective employers, look at what I have in my portfolio. These are original stories I put together, and this is from data that I requested and processed myself. Because that's what an internship is for. It's to prepare you for your career. So you should really be looking at something that can give you a taste for what you're hoping to do. Having that internship really allowed me to make myself more marketable.
So what would you say is the very first step in your search for a job or an internship?
My advice with this question is the very first step is to get clear on what you're looking for. So my advice would be to work with your, career services office if you need more options, or conduct some informational interviews to learn about different fields that might interest you. But being clear before you get started, because being a little more targeted with your resume and your outreach to recruiters and HR, I think will yield better results than just saying you're open to anything.
So if you're a student and you're interested in finding an internship, where do you start? What do you do?
It's a great question, but probably the hardest question to answer, because there's so many different ways to go with that. So, of course, network. Everybody you know should know that you want to start building your portfolio. Network. Number 2, once you're done networking, then start working with your career development center at your college, right? They always know people, they know places, and they always have opportunities. No one is going to think about an opportunity for you unless they know you're looking for an opportunity. The same goes for when you're looking for a job. When you're looking for a job, tell every single person that you know, even if you're in the grocery store, like, oh, hey, I'm talking to somebody. Just so you know, I'm working here at Arby's, or someplace, fast food place, but I'm in school and I'm looking for more opportunities. Do you have anything? So network with people, network with your career development center, because if they know you're looking for something and a job comes across somebody's desk, they're going to send it to you. Once you have an idea of what career field or what skills you want to get, then you need to do And then you need to do the big search, right? Then you've got to look, you've got to start, everybody goes on Google. Well, okay, go on Google, look for jobs. But you also need to go on Glassdoor, right? You need to go on Indeed. You need to absolutely get involved in LinkedIn. There are tons of groups on LinkedIn, local groups. And you need to go on LinkedIn and start making yourself have a digital presence.
All right. Well, the internet's made this much easier than it used to be. Just a simple search in your favorite browser or search engine can really help you find what you're looking for. There are a few sites, though, that manage curated lists of internship opportunities. One of them is the Institute for Broadening Participation. That's at pathwaystoscience.org. They have thousands of them, specifically geared towards underrepresented minorities, but a ton of programs listed. And so if you find one of these programs or websites that lists all these, it really can be helpful. We list a lot of them on our website too, and so that could be a useful place to start.
And we can add those links to the description of the episode. What kind of companies hire internships? Not-for-profit, academic, government? Where should you look?
Yeah, really all of them. So you can find internship programs with really big companies like Amazon and Google. You can find them with small nonprofits, even in government labs. And we have collaborators we work with that do all of these things. And so no matter what you're looking for, there's a possibility of finding an internship program in something in a related field or company.
Could you talk about whether you typically see are internships normally paid, normally unpaid? Does it depend on the business?
Right. Most of the ones that I've seen are paid internships. So if you're in the sciences, this is pretty typical. There will be a funded program that provides support to the students. I think more often you'll find unpaid internships with companies and places that may not have the funds to support an internship program. And so they do exist. Of course, people would always prefer to get paid. In some cases, it may be your only way into a company. And so it could still be worth taking an unpaid internship.
There is a law, and it's called it's informally called the Black Swan Law. And this law means that the student has to gain a greater benefit. If it's an unpaid internship, the student has to gain a greater benefit than the company from the work that the student does. So every company wants an intern. Every company wants to pay an intern nothing. If you're in an unpaid internship, you should always be getting a greater benefit from all of the things that you're doing there than the company is getting for you.
If a student wants to have a position, when should they start looking? Like maybe they want a position for summer. When should they start?
That's a good question too. And in my experience, it depends on the company. Some of the smaller companies I've worked for, we post our internships on our careers site, just like we would any full-time job. And anything posted on the career site, we're typically looking to fill within 2 to 3 months time. So if you're not going to be available kind of within that 2 to 3 months, then I would probably hold off and start applying like a little bit closer. So if you're graduating in May, maybe start applying in like February, March, but I wouldn't apply maybe back in November, December, because we're going to try to have that role filled before you graduate. So, it definitely depends on the company. If they have like a formal program or schedule, that's posted, then make sure to follow those directions. But otherwise, I would assume like a few months out.
If you're a student specifically and you're looking for an internship, when should you start looking? Like if you wanted to complete an internship over the summer, when should you start, working on your resume and actually applying?
That's a great question. I actually think it's never too early to start. Again, if one of the first kind of points we made today was to talk about getting your resume and your cover letter ready to go so you can start kind of searching. If you know you want to intern in the summer, I would definitely start, believe it or not, in the fall semester, kind of doing your due diligence, doing your homework, connecting with your faculty members, connecting with career development, making sure your resume is ready to go, reaching out and making those contacts.
So usually the best time to start looking would be in the fall. This could be maybe September or October. This is when most programs will open up their application process. And then they'll have due dates sometime early in the next year, so maybe January, February. So if you really need to plan ahead if you want to do something for the next summer.
When should you start thinking about an internship? Immediately.
So if you have a company that you're really interested in working for, but maybe they're not hiring interns right now, or they're not hiring a position right now, what would you suggest to do to kind of maybe get your foot in the door?
That's a great question. A lot of positions are going to be posted. There's a lot of great websites like Indeed, or actually searching on the individual company's website to find out if they're going to be excited or hosting interns. But a lot of times they just don't. It takes a lot of work to host an intern, and some companies don't think that they have the capacity to do that. So I love when students reach out and say, you know what, I really want to work for XYZ organization, but nothing's posted. So what you want to do is you want to send like a letter of intent or a letter of inquiry, just kind of asking and saying, hey, this is who I am, these are the skills that I have, and I would love to work on this specific project or this specific initiative with you and someone from your organization. Would you be willing to take me on as an intern? And the more kind of proactive you are in your approach, it really does benefit the organization, because they know that you're a go-getter and you're excited and you already have an idea of what you want. You're not waiting for them to think of tasks or ideas for you, because that's a lot of work on them. So you want to be proactive, you want to be professional, you want to send them your resume and your cover letter. Your cover letter, though, being a little bit more like you're not applying for a specific job, you're inviting them to kind of have a conversation with you. You can also connect with them on LinkedIn and say, hey, listen, I would love to, learn more about. And even if it's not an internship, it could be maybe an informational interview where you can just, pick the brain of the CEO or the head of the organization and find out more about how you can gain the skills. Sometimes networking can lead to those internships that aren't posted.
So if you know what company you want to work for and maybe what kind of area, how do you decide who to reach out for? Because, it might not be appropriate to send a letter to the president of M&T Bank to ask for an internship. So who should you actually send your letter to? I mean, of course, it would depend on the company, but do you have any tips?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is where the Career Center can definitely help out. We work with a lot of different companies. Just again, using M&T as an example, we can connect you with the recruiter or the person that does kind of facilitate and kind of field those questions. We have Lynn Rogers in our office that does an amazing job of working with our employers. And I don't think there's any employers in Western New York that she doesn't know exactly who to direct an inquiry to. So she'd be one of the first people that I would actually bring into your journey. Aside from that, just doing a general search on their website, finding out who their human resources representatives are, if they have a human resources organization. A lot of times you can go through them and even just ask them, give them a call, or send them an email and kind of inquire about that type of information. Again, I don't think you want to go right to the top of the company, but that's another great way to kind of make a connection in a very appropriate and professional way.
So what was your favorite part of your internship?
My favorite part, I would say, is actually getting hands-on with the data. A lot of what I did as far as the story composition and the writing was familiar to me because I am a journalist, so that was very much my area of expertise. So I loved that it had that built-in component, that I was still able to do what I love. But I really appreciated getting more into the data aspect and putting these skills that I was still developing as a student into practice. So exploring unfamiliar territory, working with these data sets that weren't as clean and as perfect as the examples that I worked with in class, it really gave me that real taste of what I'm going to be working with in the real world. Knowing what questions you want to ask before you just go deep diving into the data is extremely important. And that was one of the most valuable things that I got from working with the anchor data and this raw data. Putting in the request for the data was a really fun thing to do too. Working with Sue McCartney from SBDC, she was fantastic in helping me get the information that I needed. And that was fun to me, just really being a data scientist as the real deal, saying, hey, I learned this in class. This is where I can utilize the skill I learned. Because, a lot of times an internship requirement just goes as, well, I completed this because I was supposed to. I got the credit I needed to get. But it wasn't that for me. It was actually a truly enriching experience. It was really something that helped me to put these skills to use that I learned. So it was fantastic that I was actually able to do that.